This story is generated and narrated by AI. If you notice any voice glitches, feel free to leave a comment. Your feedback helps us improve future stories. Would you take on one final patient if the file already knew your name? I was supposed to be done. 35 years in this chair, listening, interpreting, decoding pain through fragmented memories and trembling hands. And in less than 2 weeks, I was to leave it all behind. A flat in Devon, a garden I would never plant, silence. But then the file arrived. It came on a Wednesday morning, gray sky, light drizzle, the kind of weather that wraps your skin in damp wool. I remember this clearly, because everything after felt increasingly unreal. A manila folder, thick, heavier than most. There was no name on the front, only a hospital stamp from an institution I didn't recognize. St. Osmond's Recovery Unit, closed since 2003. I assumed it was an archival error, something left behind in the system, until I opened it. The patient's name was Elias Coyle. No birth date, no ID number, just pages, detailed, handwritten notes, dated as recently as last month. I don't know why I kept reading. Retirement was weeks away. I could have forwarded it to the on-call team and been done with it, but the handwriting, it looked like mine. I chalked it up to coincidence, stylized loops, slanted print, nothing definitive. Maybe I was projecting. After all, how many progress notes had I written across 4 decades? I told myself that, but I took the file home. I read through it that night, twice, sitting at my kitchen table with the low hum of the refrigerator breaking the silence. Elias wasn't violent, wasn't catatonic. He was lucid, highly articulate, even philosophical. The notes described a man plagued by recurring dreams, rooms with red chairs, distant ticking clocks, the smell of ink and paper in the air. In each dream, he was speaking to someone whose face changed every time. But the voice, he said, the voice was always the same. The last note was brief, just one line. He's ready to speak to you again. There was no signature, but the pen strokes, the phrasing, even the choice of ink, it felt like something I would write. Thursday morning, I phoned the number listed on the referral sheet, expecting a disconnected line or redirected extension, but a voice answered immediately. Female, calm, clipped. Yes. Elias is awaiting transfer. You're still practicing at Leighton House, correct? I don't remember giving my name, but I said yes. Elias arrived that Monday. I watched through the window as he stepped out of the private transport vehicle, tall, lean, dressed in gray slacks and a dark coat. No restraints, no hesitation. He didn't look around or acknowledge the driver. Just walked straight to the front door and waited. I met him in room 3, the older consultation room I rarely used. He stood by the window when I entered, hands folded behind his back. When he turned, he smiled, not warmly, not cruelly, just knowingly. It's been a long time. Malcolm. I didn't correct him. He didn't ask if I was Dr. Wren. He called me by my first name, as if we'd known each other for years. Let's sit, I said, gesturing to the chairs. He took his seat without question, leaning back, eyes fixed not on me, but the corner of the ceiling. Do you know why you're here? To remind you. I didn't answer. Just wrote it down. Remind me of what? Things you've chosen to forget. But that's all right. We have time, don't we? The session lasted 47 minutes. He didn't offer details, just fragments, statements out of place, out of time. You used to keep a green lamp on your desk. You replaced it after the fire. The hallway smells like linseed oil again. That stopped after 1997, didn't it? Do you still hear the tapping at night? Or did it follow the others? I asked him who the others were. He just smiled. That night, I dreamed of the red chair, the one from the notes. It was an old, leather reading chair, worn, creased, with a slight tear along the left armrest. There was a ticking sound, not a clock, exactly, but rhythmic, distant. I was seated, pen in hand. But the pages I wrote were blank, and the ink smelled sharp, like burnt wood. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. My hands were stained, blue ink along the cuticle, on the edge of my left palm, but my pens were all capped. My notebook closed. I washed my hands twice, didn't sleep again. The second session was quieter. Elias was less cryptic, more conversational. He asked me if I'd ever thought about how many patients forget who they are, not through trauma, but through osmosis, absorbing pain, layering new identities until the original dissolves. I asked if he was referring to himself. Maybe, or maybe I'm referring to you. You think I've forgotten something? No. I think you're starting to remember. He spoke about a staircase, narrow, wooden, lit by a single swaying bulb. He said he used to count the steps on the way up and again on the way down, but the number was always different. I asked him where the staircase led. He said, "Here." I reviewed his file again that night. All the pages were there, same order, same handwriting, but one had changed. The paper from the first note, the one that read, "He's ready to speak to you again," now had a second sentence beneath it, and this time, "Try not to burn it down." I didn't tell anyone about the note. What would I say? That a dead file had changed its contents overnight? That a man who shouldn't know me spoke like we were unfinished chapters in the same book? No. I told myself it was stress, early retirement anxiety, maybe even subconscious suggestion. I'd read the file before sleep, probably dreamt something and conflated it. That's all. The third session, things shifted. He brought something with him, a small, black journal. No markings, cracked spine. Without a word, he placed it between us on the table. "You kept this in the drawer, beneath the folders, third from the bottom. It was yours before. It can be yours again." I didn't touch it. "What's inside?" "What you wrote. The first time." I pushed it slightly back toward him. "I don't recall ever owning this." He tilted his head. "You will, by the 7th entry." That's where the gaps start to close. After the session, I left it in the observation room, told the intern not to touch it. But when I passed the door later that afternoon, the journal was gone. No one had checked it out. No one had moved it. It had simply vanished. That night, I heard the tapping, not in the walls, but on the mirror, 3 soft taps, spaced evenly, like a metronome. I live alone. The hallway light flickered as I got out of bed, humming low like it was straining against something heavy in the air. I went to the mirror. Nothing there. But when I looked closely, there was moisture, 3 faint, circular marks, like fingerprints. I didn't sleep again. I arrived at the office early, made coffee, reviewed past case files just to keep my mind grounded. But in the inbox, there was a package wrapped in brown paper, tied with string, no return address. Inside, the journal, the same one. Only this time, the first page was dated August 4th, 1995. My handwriting, my name. The entries were erratic at first, half-formed thoughts, dreams, sensations, red chairs, ticking clocks, a man with no face but my voice. The 5th entry described Elias, long before he ever arrived. Not by name, but unmistakably him. It said, he remembers things I haven't lived and dreams of places I've never seen. But when he speaks, I recognize the voice, because it's mine. During the 4th session, I confronted him. "How long have we known each other?" He didn't answer directly, just closed his eyes and whispered, "Not long enough." but long enough to forget. I pressed him, asked him where he was from, who admitted him, what his condition had been before St. Osmond's. He gave me only one response. "We're not patients and doctors here, Malcolm. We're reflections, bound to the room, bound to the forgetting." I ended the session early, had him escorted back to his quarters. Then I locked the journal in my drawer. I needed space, logic, order. I scheduled a call with the Central Archives to request information about St. Osmond's Recovery Unit. Dates of operation, patient logs, staff lists. The woman on the line paused. "Sir, that facility, it burned down in 2002. "Yes, I'm aware, but I need to confirm a patient's record, Elias Coyle." There was a longer pause. "I'm sorry, but that name doesn't exist in our database." "Are you sure he was treated there?" "The referral came directly from them." "I spoke to someone. That's not possible." "The phone line was disconnected after the fire. No one's been stationed there in over 20 years. I hung up, hands trembling. The line I'd called, the woman I'd spoken to, if that was real, then this couldn't be. I opened the drawer. The journal was gone. Session 5, he was waiting before I even entered the room, standing, hands clasped. There was no greeting, no introduction, only this. "Have you remembered the stairs yet?" I didn't respond. He continued. "They creak halfway up, but only when you're alone. On the third step, though it feels soft, like it's still burning. You've been down them before. You just didn't come back the same." I asked him about the journal, where it came from, why my name was in it. He smiled. "Because it was yours, and it will be again. When this version ends, another begins, and each time, the ink runs deeper." I leaned in. "What are you?" His eyes softened, and in a voice that mirrored mine exactly, "I'm the part of you that stayed when the fire came." I stood up, left the room, didn't look back. That night, I found a burn mark beneath my desk, circular, blackened, like the base of a lamp that had overheated years ago. I touched it. It was still warm. I stopped going home after the 6th session. I told my assistant I was working late, but in truth, I couldn't be alone in that house anymore. Not with the mirrors, not with the sounds, not with what I saw in the corners when I turned the lights off. I began sleeping in my office, or rather, I tried, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw the staircase, not the one from my apartment, not any I recognized. Old, wooden, slightly warped, half the railing missing. In the heat, it was always so hot, like the walls were breathing, exhaling fire just beneath the plaster. In the dream, or memory, I couldn't tell anymore. I would stand at the top, afraid to go down, because I knew something waited below, a shape, flickering, as though made of smoke, but with eyes that glowed through the dark like coals, and a voice so terribly calm. "There you are again. You always come back when it's nearly over." I stopped trusting clocks. I'd glance at one, blink, and 5 hours would be gone. Notes would appear in my handwriting, detailing sessions I had no memory of conducting. Elias had stopped responding to his name. Now he simply called himself the patient, or, occasionally, your echo. The journal returned, again, left on my desk during the night. This time, it had grown thicker, entries I didn't write, but signed in my name. The most recent was titled, "When the Doctor Became the Room." It described a scenario I refused to believe, that St. Osmond's wasn't just a location, but a loop, a place trapped in itself, where one doctor remained, forever treating a patient that mirrored his own unraveling. It ended with the question, scratched deeply into the paper, which came first, the fire or the forgetting? Session 7. I almost didn't go in. I stood outside the door for several minutes, hand on the knob, waiting for a sound, anything. When I finally opened it, the room was empty. No Elias, no chair, only the journal, open on the floor. To an entry I had not yet read, it simply said, "You weren't his doctor. You were his replacement. He left the door open, and you stepped in." That night, I dreamed of fire again, but this time, I wasn't at the top of the stairs. I was in the basement. The walls were lined with mirrors, all showing different versions of myself, some older, some burned, some whispering things I couldn't understand. In the center of the room was a chair, wooden, blackened, ash-covered, and sitting in it was me, but older, eyes hollow, mouth sewn shut with thread. And in my own voice, muffled but unmistakable, it whispered, "You stayed too long, and now they've written you in." I woke with soot on my hands, actual soot, black powder beneath my nails, streaks across my sleeves, and behind my desk, a scorch mark had grown, now the size of a chair base. I tried to alert the staff, but no one believed me. No one else had even seen Elias. I checked the security footage. All 7 sessions were recorded, but in every one, I was alone in the room, speaking to air, responding to silence. Had he never been there? Was I unraveling? Was this the very madness I'd spent a lifetime studying, now claiming me in the final stretch? I turned to the journal again. There was a page marked with a red string, one I hadn't noticed before. It read, "The patient has done his work, and now the doctor must descend. The stairs are open, but they do not lead down. They lead back." Later that night, I found the stairs not in a dream, not in a vision, but behind a locked utility door in the east wing of the hospital, a door we hadn't used in years. I opened it. There they were, just like in my dreams, warped wood, missing railing. Soft step halfway down, and heat, that same unnatural warmth, like a breath rising from the depths. I descended. Each step creaked, not with weight, but like it was sighing. On the 3rd step, I paused. I looked at my hand. It was trembling, but not from fear, from recognition. At the bottom, there was a door, blackened at the edges, handle warm to the touch, and on it, carved deeply into the wood, was my name. Just my name. Nothing else. The door opened easily, as if it had been waiting. Inside was not a basement, not a storage room, not anything that should have existed beneath a psychiatric hospital. It was my office, an exact replica, same desk, same chair. Even the framed photograph of my dog that had died 15 years ago. But there was no light source, and yet I could see. Everything was softly glowing, like it was being remembered into existence. There was someone sitting at the desk. I thought it was a mirror at first. The resemblance was perfect. Same face, same hands, same tired eyes. But it wasn't me. Not exactly. He looked older, much older. His skin was cracked like worn leather. And he was smiling, not kindly. He gestured to the chair across from him. The patient's chair. "You've done well, better than the last one, but it always ends here." I didn't sit. I couldn't. My knees trembled beneath me, but I forced myself to speak. "Who are you?" The older me tilted his head slightly. "I'm the one who stayed, the one who couldn't let go, the one who answered too many questions, until there was nothing left but answers." What is this place? This is the room that remembers, the core of the cycle, the place where the doctor always becomes the patient and where memory becomes the disease. He opened the drawer of the desk, pulled out the journal, not a copy, the journal, worn, burned at the edges, swollen with pages I had never seen. He flipped through it as he spoke. Elias was never real. He was your invitation, your reflection. The crack in the mirror wide enough to crawl through. He slid the journal across the desk to me. I didn't touch it. I couldn't even look at it, but I could feel it, humming like it had a pulse. There is no retirement, not for us. We read too much, listened too closely, and the room needed a new voice to echo. He stood, slowly, bones clicking as though he hadn't moved in years. And as he did, the office began to change. The walls peeled back, revealing brick, then stone, then something older. The desk crumbled. The photo on it turned to ash, and behind him, in the far wall, a mirror began to form. But it wasn't reflecting the room. It was showing a hospital corridor, my hospital corridor, and walking down it was me, myself, returning from the cafeteria, holding a coffee, humming faintly. The loop starts now. That version of you will enter the office in 10 minutes. The memory will anchor, and he'll wonder where you went. He'll find the journal. He'll read, and then he'll descend. I turned to run, but the stairs were gone. There was no door, only the mirror, and the older me standing before it. You should be proud. You didn't break. You remembered, and now you become the voice. I screamed, not in fear, but in rage. I won't do it. I won't replace you. I won't. The diary opened automatically, flipping frantically, then stopped at the last page. A new entry is being written, slowly, word by word. In my handwriting, Dr. Robert Mallory, admitted June 3rd, professional delusion. Believes he is a psychiatrist treating imaginary patients, deteriorates, becomes violent when faced with the truth, prescribed isolation and observation therapy, progress, none. The checkmark box was empty, waiting. The mirror brightened, and through it, I saw myself return to my office, sit at my desk, open a drawer, pause, then lift out the journal. The older me whispered, and now you understand, the last patient is always the doctor who couldn't let go. And as the light drained from the room, as the mirror became my only world, I felt something enter me. Not a presence, not a spirit, but a role. And I took the seat in the room that remembers. So, do you think Dr. Mallory ever escaped? Or was he always the patient from the start? Leave your theories below. And if this story kept you up tonight, consider subscribing. New horrors arrive every week.